So as you kind of scan your body to make sure you're semi-comfortable, as comfortable as one can be on these seats, uh, just to explore how you think about sitting here. You think, I'm sitting here, my body's sitting here, my mind's a million miles away. And thinking about what does it mean to say I'm sitting here? Make sure your mind is here too. And think about the reason you decided to show up. And based on that reason, try to generate a positive intention to use this time well. And by positive, I mean, making the wish that it's going to benefit your own mind in some way. And this benefit will ripple out to benefit those around you. I want to think, how can I make this of benefit to myself, at least? And the Buddha would just say, listening with an open mind, without bias, listening with a mind that's curious and that's willing to investigate. And of course, the mind that actually listens. This is all predicated. It's, oh, the Buddha taught that there's a method to end suffering. And that suffering is an internal matter. It's inner. It's all about the mind. So most of the teachings are about developing our inner awareness, being fully aware of what's going on in the body, in the mind, using our wisdom to discern what is skillful, what is unskillful. Practicing so that we can drop what is unskillful and increase what is skillful. Comes down to mind training. Training our mind in skillful habits. Recognizing our mistaken states of mind. And replace those with correct states of mind. So one of the foundational mistakes we make is we think that happiness is directly related to self-happiness, taking care of the me and the mind, M-I-N-E. And the Buddha says, actually, it's about cherishing others. So we're going to recite the four measurables to kind of kickstart us on this mind that cherishes others. It's on the screen. Oh, no, it's not, because I haven't put it there. Do. And it's on page 34 of the gold book, if you can't see the screen. All right. So just pause lightly after each sentence so you can picture some person that you know. You can make it more specific. We're trying to train our 34. We're trying to train our mind in thinking of others. But sometimes it helps us when we're thinking in this way, trying to develop the minds of love and compassion and equanimity and joy, that we are, sometimes it's easier to come up with someone that we care about and wish them to be happy and then expand it. That we don't just wish it for our loved ones, but we want to grow that out. So we'll just pause to give us each a chance to do that in our minds. So the first line, may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. So just take a moment to generate this feeling for at least one person. This is the mind of love, really wishing someone just have nothing but happiness and the causes of happiness. And then just make your circle, your heart circle, bigger. Perhaps including all their friends, all their coworkers, and you could just keep expanding it out. And then the second line, may all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. So now generate, bring to mind someone you know to be suffering. Allow compassion for them to arise in your mind stream, which is just the wish that they be free of that suffering. And then you can think about the fact that many, many, many others are suffering in a very similar way to your friend, to your loved one. And again, it's that they all be free from this suffering and this cause of suffering. And the next line, may all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. So this is a wish that beings have lasting happiness that's not tainted with the sufferings of samsara, and having joy to imagine them that way, to really be happy at the thought of all sentient beings having happiness that is free from suffering. So it might be easy to think of children in this way, but this is their future. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And then the last line, may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And here you might think of someone you know who's struggling with another person, and that you know that if they would just let go of that animosity, how much happier they would be. And the same is true for each of us. Really wishing all sentient beings to be happy, to be free of suffering, have the causes of happiness, be free of the causes of suffering. No matter how they treat us, whether we see them as enemies or difficult or the problem. Think about how much more at ease we'll be. We can have a mind of equanimity. So in order to achieve these four immeasurable minds, we're trying to understand the teachings of the Buddha, which is called the Dharma. So for those who are comfortable, we're going to recite the Refuge and Bodhicitta prayer. It's on page 98 of the book. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Ooh. I'm like you, somebody's yawning a lot here, and I'm copying you now. So thank you for sharing. I hope you're being, it's bringing relaxation to you. Ah.
It's a happy yawn, right?
Any yawn can be a happy one if we just go, oh, I must be relaxing. Instead of focusing on, oh, I must be bored out of my skull, or, I didn't sleep well, or whatever it is. But it is nice to know that yawns, relax us. That's kind of what we need. So, everybody wrap up. I'm fine.
That's great.
So funny. Samsara, so much fun. So we've been trying to do a little bit of thought about not just the method side of the path, not just the, developing love and compassion and, but also understanding that at the root of the states of mind like anger and greed and envy and pride and, various things is our misunderstanding of how we exist. And so it's important to try to start thinking about, well, how do we exist then? So we've been looking about how the label I, the label self, are just that. They're just labels placed onto a suitable form for those labels, which is a body and mind. So we say I when we're referring to ourselves, but all of us say that. So my I is this body and mind. Your I is your body and mind. So it's the same with the self. And the Buddha said, nothing wrong with that. It's much more convenient for communication to have a label, no problem. The problem is we go one step further. And this is really obvious when a strong state of mind arises, like embarrassment. What mind arises with embarrassment?
The insecure mind.
And what is it thinking? That insecure mind. Try to quote your mind. What would it be thinking?
I'm stupid.
Okay. And who is that I? So now we've gone from just, the label I to a judgment about that I. And we kind of make it all pervasive, don't we? We often don't just go, well, that was a stupid thing to do. What do we grasp at? Of what?
Permanence that always stupid.
I'm always stupid. What are we also grasping at?
We're grasping
What is
at
that?
a separate self.
Yeah.
At a solid
At a
self.
separate self that's stupid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're holding, it's our identity of self that we're grasping after, and we hold it to be almost separate than us, oh, now everybody's going to see this self for what it's really like, this stupid self, That self does not exist at all, according to the Buddha. That's a made up elaboration that we superimpose on top of the label that's a mere label of this body and mind. So Jack brought up impermanence or permanence. What is the relevance of that?
If you're not stupid all the time.
That you're not stupid all the time. That's right. Even stupidity is impermanent. Thank goodness. So that is one of the ways we can talk to ourselves when that mind arises. So what would you say to your mind? I'm making you do the work. What would you say to that mind? Okay, you can go start there, be very generic. I am not this body, speech, mind complex. So who are you? Yeah. Don't think us because we can say those words, we necessarily have no grasping at a self. Well, it's a very direct way of approaching it.
It's okay to do one stupid.
It's what?
It's okay to do one stupid. You don't have to.
How does that counter the mind that says I'm stupid?
Say that you did one stupid thing, but it goes back to the same phrase I said before, but you're not stupid all the time.
Okay, so this is that I'm not stupid all the time directly counters I'm stupid.
Mhm.
So that's important.
It's also telling yourself you're still stupid occasionally.
Well, that's okay.
It's not.
We have to
true.
start somewhere.
It's not true.
Again, when we're having this analysis, we need to come up with reasons that directly counter the grasping we're doing.
I can change this.
Huh?
I can change this.
That still, again, does not counter the mind that says I'm stupid.
I'm also smart.
That also does not counter, but you understand, I mean, are we getting somewhere with this?
Yeah, so, okay, I'm stupid, but I'm okay.
That's just grasping at two things, a stupid okay person, you know? Yeah,
I'm not stupid, but I'm doing a stupid thing.
okay, how about if just instead of I'm not stupid, really countering the theme of I'm stupid.
To get rid of the I. That was a stupid thing to do.
That was a stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the I'm not stupid. That's just the opposite of I'm stupid. That does not counter the mind that's grasping at a self-identity. You know? It's a good start when we need to have more positive self-speech. But what we're trying to understand is why it's a wrong consciousness. It's wrong on several levels, right? Because one is like, one stupid act doesn't mean all your actions are stupid. But also, it gets at this I part problem. We identify with a very concrete sense of an I. And this I doesn't exist. There's no, like you were saying, there's no stupid I, there's no not stupid I, there's no, or Rome was saying, there's none of these things actually exist. What does exist?
Human form.
Permanently?
No.
No. So it's,
The label exists.
the label exists. Absolutely. Yep. I don't know if time exists or not.
Without time. No, that's how we change. That's how we.
I
get
still
to-
can, I'm still, my jury's out on whether or not time is at all what we think of.
I think we live it within time.
I think we've created that concept.
Yeah.
Yep.
Concept.
I forgot my own question.
What exists?
What exists?
What exists? When you say the human form,
Energy. Is that it?
I love that. There's no real right answer here. But what we want to get very precise, you know,
The mind exists.
Yes.
There we go.
permanently.
Isn't that what goes on?
Depends on your school.
That was a good-
How about the correct school?
Oh, boy.
The one
We're not
correct
gonna go there.
The one correct school. That's right. Okay. Okay, Graciela, do you have an answer?
No, I have a question.
That works too.
Okay, is it possible to address the same problem by it? I feel like the word stupid is so loaded and judgmental and hard on ourselves. Is it possible to say I made a mistake? Is it?
Yeah, what we're trying to do is directly oppose the incorrectness of the sentence, I'm stupid, from the point of view of emptiness.
You say, I'm not defined by that action.
Our attachment to the word I is part of our problem. Because in communication, this is why words are so clumsy with trying to get at this issue. Okay. And most of us who've had maybe read any woman's magazine on the planet have, learned that things like I'm stupid is not a good starting point for any conversation, internal or otherwise, that it's it's not true. Why is it not true? Maybe we can go at it from this angle.
Everything changes constantly.
So which moment does I'm stupid exist in?
The past.
Fractional.
Let's go on, So this idea of I am stupid implies an eternity, doesn't it? Now, we might not see when we use analysis, we know that's not true. That's bringing wisdom into the picture. Okay, so the Buddha would say, guess what? Not only is, there's no possible way you're eternally stupid. There's no I that's eternal anything other than a mere label on a body and mind that's constantly changing. Yeah.
Would it be more correct to say stupidity came up in the mind?
You can say stupid came up in the mind. And then you can say, and what does that mean? Does it have any real meaning? No. So you want to keep you can keep the, I mean, first you just start with going, oh, so, I've just labeled stupid, But what we want to try to learn how to do is use our reasoning to directly counter our self-grasping. Okay. So when we say I'm not stupid all the time, we're not really doing that. Unless we go that extra step of going, nothing is anything all the time, that's inherent existence. Inherent existence, if I were to inherently exist, I would be the same thing all the time. That's what it means, that there's something coming from the side of the object that you could point to and say, oh, they're stupid. Like all those teachers, I'm with stupid. Yeah.
Good, stupid.
So stupid is just
Another label.
it's just another label, and I want it different.
And does what?
I want it different.
You want it different.
That's what.
And that I,
That's sending back to the I always.
oh yeah.
Suffering.
So we need to counter that I.
So then what happens when you become liberated?
Mhm.
There's
You think
no-
I comes up much?
But there's no going back to become liberated.
Going back to what?
Suffering.
Yes, and what else? Ignorance about suffering.
That seems kind of permanent, liberation.
It doesn't. What is permanent in liberation?
That you're liberated.
Where are you going with liberation? Where are you?
You're not suffering at that moment.
You're not suffering ever again.
So we want to look at this way we grasp at permanence. Okay, it is correct that once you're liberated, you'll never have that ignorance again that is the cause of suffering. That's correct. Do you have an I that's more than a mere label on a body and mind? No. So, and we have to really understand that in order to be liberated.
We're back to I am not mind, body, speech, complex.
But what are we?
That's the challenge.
The challenge is even being able to contemplate that we're grasping on something more than that. Because we all intellectually get this, that I is just a mere label. And we all have the same name. How ridiculous is that? So of course, then we had to come up with other names so we could communicate with each other. You know, I don't mean, you know, that I mean that one, you know, and so, you know. So language is really a difficult way to talk about the absence of inherent existence because we use language to grasp, you know, but we don't have to. It's just what we do.
We are nothing, no thing.
This insistence on trying to find a permanent thing to label. Now we're no thing.
The language has caused itself.
Conception of the self has caused us suffering.
An understanding that you don't have to define it.
I think it goes beyond that, but I haven't had a direct experience of emptiness, so I can't tell you what that feels like. And I couldn't anyway, because as we said, words just don't work here. But we're using words when we say something like I'm stupid. So we do want to counter those words because those words are embodying a type of grasping that we do. First, we're grasping at this notion of stupidity, you know, which, you know, we have made it a loaded word. It may have always been a loaded word because it's derogatory. And we're grasping at I. And that sense we feel, this is what we need to start to notice, that there's a experience of that I. You know, when you're embarrassed, you have a strong sense of I, don't you? That's the I we're trying to let go of. That doesn't exist at all. That permanent, always stupid, always whatever, you know, is the source of our suffering. It comes from a habit of mistaking how we exist and how we appear to. The trouble is we appear to exist this way. This is why, you know, we talk about appearance and reality. You know, we appear as sort of self-existent entities,
In this illusion.
like an illusion. We're making the illusion. We exist. That isn't a problem, you know. But the way we exist is not how we're holding ourselves to exist. Yeah,
So is saying to ourselves, I am kind. Again, grasping.
yeah. See, this is about that. Yeah, it can be. This is about that experience I'm talking about. So when someone praises you, does it feel similar to someone being embarrassed? What
Not to me.
does it feel? What's different about it?
The ego likes.
So it's a pleasant sensation.
Is.
But stupidity does, embarrassment does. It lasts moment to moment to moment. Why?
Feed it.
We feed it. I really am stupid. Oh, I can't believe I did that. Once again, stupidity arises, you know. So we feed it. And sometimes we feed the praise too. Ooh, yes, special, you know, because we do like to drag out the pleasant. But what's key here is noticing that I we're grasping at. We're not so much grasping at the words smart, you know, clever, whatever. We're grasping at that sensation of I am this.
But how do you make that to embarrass you?
We're grasping at that as well. It just feels bad. And then I've forgotten your name.
Kim.
Kim has illustrated the difference of, you know, this is the suffering of change. We know embarrassment's just plain old suffering, right? Praise, feeling pride is the suffering of change. Why? Because it ends. You know, it doesn't last long. Why?
If I do something stupid. Why do we feed the negative?
Habit, ruminating. Because we don't want to consider ourselves that way. It goes back to self-identity. You know?
We want to feel separate.
Yeah. And what?
We want to feel separate. We don't want to feel the I doesn't exist.
What do you think of when you just say something like the I doesn't exist? What does your I feel like then?
It sounds nihilistic. Say it that way.
Yeah. And we have proof all over the place that that can't possibly be true. And what do we mean by that? This is what's so fascinating, isn't it? We know the label I exists. We read books. We see it. We have conversations. We hear it.
In the mirror.
We see it in the mirror. What do we see in the mirror? This is always a very interesting idea. So what do we see in the mirror? A body, a face, an unfortunate what?
A blemish.
A blemish. Does that exist in the mirror? Are you in the mirror? What's in the mirror? A reflection. It's like an illusion because it looks like your face is in the mirror.
You never see.
We never see ourselves. Who are we grasping onto at all? So
So there is an essence
what is the essence?
that's and that the I builds up on.
See, actually, generally speaking, when we talk about an essence, if you're like me, that's the grasping at a self. I have an essence, and that essence is more than stupidity, you know, I hope, you know, all those things. That's that self-identity, that reputation we hold on to so dear. It isn't that we don't have a nature. You know, that's why, you know, we're called a human because we have a human body. We have, you know. But we think there's this essence that's kind of permanent and lasts from moment to moment to moment to life to life to life to life to life, you know. And the Buddha said, no, sorry. You know, because that's saying there's something from the side of that body and mind that screams me. And what is,
Would that essence not be there for everybody?
well, do we have the same
Does
essence?
that- Yeah, it's one and the same essence.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
Yeah. No, the Buddha wouldn't say it that way. No,
The semantics of it are
very difficult.
problematic.
Yeah.
And, but when we, you know, in our teachings with the habits that we take from life to life,
Mhm.
even to a certain degree, a aspect of personality, like, for example, with the.
Okay, so what is personality?
A collection of characteristics, I guess. But just like when in the stories of identifying a tulku or something like that, there's the, oh yes, well the child, you know, had some of the mannerisms or some of the same
What are those really?
Habits.
habits.
Yeah, just habits. So
Right.
I hesitate over words like personality, because again, that's like there's this essence, and
Okay,
it's been the same life after life after life. Now, the habits of the teacher in the previous life, you know, like when you're talking about mannerisms, do you think those were exactly the same in the life before that,
no.
or the life before that? See, it's something that in recent time, recent history, they had to develop those particular mannerisms from, I don't know, their parents or whatever, you know, and, you know, so this idea of personality can also convey a certain sense of permanence that I'm trying to avoid.
Okay, well then leave out personality habits.
Yep.
If you're taking habits from life to life.
Yep.
They,
They look for those. And-
so.
yeah.
I think that's sort of the challenging aspect of separating, you know, a soul or an atman
Or even this idea of a universal essence. Because our consciousnesses, according to the Buddha, have always existed, will always exist. They don't cease. There's nothing to cause them to cease. There's no cause of consciousness ceasing. It's not physical. I'm letting that sit for a minute. Okay. So our continuum of consciousness are separate. That's true. My continuum of consciousness is not yours, and vice versa. What do you think?
Aren't they, they're interdependent though.
Yeah, they're totally interdependent. But they're not the same. Nothing about them is the same. It's a different moment of consciousness. Your continuum of consciousness can affect my continuum of consciousness if I listen to you. You know, that can have an effect on my next moment of mine. But there's still no exchange of consciousness. If there
Just is.
it just is.
Isn't consciousness just the concept as well? So I mean, if you try to get.
Not according to the Buddha. The name consciousness is a concept. What it's given to is a concept, but its existence is also,
That's because of experience. I mean, how do you?
it's just a series of mental events. Now, can you point to anything? No, because it's not physical. It doesn't have form.
In that sense, that would be the only thing that really exists.
So the continuity of consciousness and the body it rides upon. So this is the thing. So you'll see in sutra text, that the body and mind are completely separate. The mind is physical. I mean, the body is physical, and it's what dies and deteriorates and all those things because it's physical. And we know that all impermanent phenomena deteriorate. They arise, they abide, they die. They just fall apart. So we all know our bodies fall in that category.
Mine's
Yeah. So, okay. In Tantra, they also talk about how the subtle mind, the extremely subtle mind that goes from light to light, has a wind that carries it, and that's its body. Let's take it because we like it. I'm kind of like that too. So it's inseparable, the body and mind, they are distinct, but they're, you always, the mind always needs a body to ride on because that's what allows the mind to move. You have to turn your mind towards an object.
So then you have two bodies, you have the subtle wind that you ride on and this physical body.
Yeah. The subtle mind and body reside in the indestructible drop at the heart. Can't go there. So that's tongue. I mean, it's just, but that gets released, the clear light of death, and goes to the next body.
So it's continual, and would you say it's permanent?
It's not by the way they define permanence in Buddhism. That's important. It's eternal, but not permanent. And even that gets you thrown, but it just always exists. It just is. Nothing created it, nothing caused it to arise. It is. Sort of like physical particles. According to the teachings, physicality has always existed. The building blocks of all the forms that things take and all forms that we take, all that has always existed.
Don't you always end up trying to label something that's unknown? No matter how
That's just because of communication, I think.
So then what is there then? It's real. You experience, it's like
I don't think, well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's sort of like what the Buddha is trying to get us to understand is almost everything that we think, almost, not all, is a story we're making up as we go along. And it's not true. It's a story solely from our own perspective. And anybody who's been around an eyewitness type situation where you're trying to get the eyewitnesses accounts for everybody and everybody's is different, starts to have a clue about that, So, and there's a reason why they're different, because their perspectives are in fact different. If you even just look at what they saw, and assuming that there's nothing wrong with their eye faculty, they're looking at it from a different angle. They're not going to see the same thing, So that's one of those things that, oh yeah, well, that's true. Okay. So each moment of mind is related to the previous moment of mind. The direct cause of any moment of mind is the previous moment of mind. Because nothing can create mind except a moment of mind. I can't, if we could share minds and, and Buddhists would have fixed us all already. They just get in there and fix our minds. Well, that can't happen. Okay. So we each have these streams of consciousness. But remember when I brought up the candle flame? So you take a candle, you light a candle, right? You pick up that candle, you light a candle. You pick up that candle, you light the candle. You pick up that candle. Okay. So you could say there's a relationship between that last candle flame and that first candle flame, right? But they're not the same flame. That's like the mind, moments of mental events. So this self is labeled, this I, this me, these are names we give to a sequence of mental and physical events that are changing moment by moment. That's how impermanent it is. It's, you know, we know this from physics, that the physical form is changing constantly, which means moment by moment, because literally it can't be conscious. You know. And same with our mind. And when we become aware, the more inward we go with our awareness and pay, you know, develop our ability to pay attention to our mind, the more we can see the impermanence of the mind, of our thoughts.
And less grasping.
Because there's nothing to grasp at. And so that's the purpose of looking at, when I say I'm stupid, how do I directly counter the grasping that's in that sentence? You know? You know, really understanding that there's nothing there that's stupid. You know, we can have, you know, we can label an action as, let's just go with skillful and unskillful, so it's not so loaded, you know. So we can have a moment of skillful action, a moment of skillful thought. The advantages of having a moment of skillful thought is they can create the cause for the next moment of skillful thought. But if the conditions change, guess what? It might not lead you to skillful. Because what happens? Our mind turns to some condition that is a condition for one of our unskillful thoughts to arise. And then we're hooked. And we feed that. And what we want to start doing is feeding the skillful stuff. So when we say I'm stupid, we want to counter that on a couple of different levels. One is, of course, no one's stupid all the time, so the sentence doesn't make any sense. Okay. You know, at the worst, you did something that was unskillful.
Took the eye away from an object. Don't allow it to become an object.
Don't let the I itself become an object. Yes, and this is what we grasp at. We think there's this sort of separate I, separate self, separate essence that's comes from its own side. That's more than just moments of mind. You know, that has something, you know, that's you, that's in there.
So aren't we reinforcing the power of the I because we use it all day?
Yes. And people who use, what was it I just read? I read it today. People who use, and His Holiness was talking about a study he was taught, whatever, that he had a discussion about, where people who use the words like I, me, mine a lot have heart attacks more often. It's all about me. So we don't want to do that. So
Live long, but the opposite of that.
right? That's the conclusion you could draw. Now, I'm not saying anything about the worth of that study.
They're not absorbing. You're like not a sponge. If you're I, me, and them, you're open to absorb all radiation from other people and everything else. That's why it happens to cause stress. And that
Whatever.
we know that stress has a medical problem.
Well, this comes back to what we've talked about also, is a healthy sense of self. A healthy sense of self is not determined by others. Others' information about you is useful. It can be a mirror to see, have I not noticed that about my habits? You know, so that when we can do better, you know, whatever. But when we think just because someone criticizes us or praises us that we change, that somehow, oh, they finally noticed, you know. I'm whatever, stupid or special. If everything, that's that roller coaster of moments where we go up when something good's going on, we go down when something bad's going on. There's no equanimity there at all. It's just, oh, we're just being pushed around by our reaction to other people's words or expressions, you know, or their, it's all suffering, yes. This is how we create our own suffering. And it all comes at the root of grasping at this idea that there's some essence of an I that's me, and that others can actually damage that. You know, and I have to protect it at all cost.
If we have a healthy sense of I or self, is that still grasping?
No, not if it's a healthy sense of I. We exist. And in some ways, it's like we don't even have to worry about that. You know, it's that we keep coming to the wrong conclusion about how we exist. That's the problem. We do exist. There's nothing about realizing emptiness that destroys conventional truth. Ultimate truth is merely the perspective of existence without any elaboration. An experience of that. It doesn't eradicate existence. It eradicates this idea we have that things exist from their own side. It's a lot of words, and
There's no such thing as suffering.
the suffering is a construct that we make up and experience because of it. It's a manifestation of the ripening of our negative actions. So it exists. It doesn't have to. You know, if we remove our ignorance, it would not arise at all. But because ignorance exists, we keep suffering. And that's a perspective. It's a mistaken perspective, ignorance.
Buddha gives us tools to counteract.
And to uncover it, to be able to keep analyzing it, keep analyzing, keep thinking about it, keep thinking about it. And then one day, with a very powerful conceptual understanding of this, of how things exist, we'll have a direct experience of how things exist. And then it all falls apart, our samsara, because it is the grasping at the self that causes greed, anger, jealousy, cruelty, all of those things to exist.
Venerable Tendrin.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to use words that so you can understand what I'm saying. Us, the human population, have feelings. Feelings are energy. So
Are you sure?
I'm fairly sure. I wouldn't say I'm
According to the Buddha, feelings are mind. They are non-physical awareness. It's a state of mind.
But aren't they measurable thing? I mean, haven't they been able to be measured?
It's not that the body doesn't react to our mind. So the ways in which our body reacts to our mind can be measured, because then it's a physical reaction, but they're not the same thing.
But it would seem that, I don't know, I'm not trying to be difficult, but I'm really trying to understand. If we have feelings.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. If we have feelings, what are they there for?
Oh, I love this. Nobody created us to tell with a purpose or a feeling. That's not how it happens. So it doesn't mean that everything we think, do, or whatever makes sense. We have feelings, like we have physical feelings, physical sensations, because we have a body, right? So we can have pleasant physical sensations, unpleasant physical sensations, things, neutral physical sensations, okay? you know. Then we have a mental response to those. Okay. Oh, it's an unpleasant physical experience. I want it to stop. In fact, I'm going to be in hell until it stops. That's grasping it. Okay. So aversion arises. So the physical sensations exist just because in these bodies are the nature of, you know, we're not armadillos, and even armadillos can get hurt. And iguanas. And they can fall out of trees just because it's cold. So my point is, if our bodies are a physical manifestation of our past actions, does that mean that they would be subject to having negative stuff? So many things to think about all at once. See, this is what's hard, is you really have to step back and try to look at it from the big view. You don't have to agree with it, but you're trying to understand the Buddha's teachings from that big view, which is that everything we experience is the result of our own past actions. Actions can be of body, speech, and mind. Pleasant experiences come from our positive actions of body, speech, and mind. Unpleasant experiences come from our negative actions of body, speech, and mind.
But now, isn't that because that is how we respond? Like the same thing can happen to two different people and they respond opposite.
So the result will be opposite.
You have it. Well,
So it's all mind. And it's all our actions of body, speech, and mind. Starts with the mind, really. So I don't know what you're trying to get at.
well, it's like anything that happens. Like
It's
my
cause
job,
and effect.
like my job, for instance. I do the same thing as everybody around me. I like what I do. Some people hate what they do.
Yeah, because of karma.
It's the same job. Yeah.
Yeah, because you only experienced the results of actions you have done. That's why they're not shared.
But the absolute of that, like,
There is no
absolute
absolute of that.
what's good or what's bad, I think that's a judgment, right? As you said, like somebody can experience something that's good and somebody can experience the same thing.
And what makes the difference?
Karma.
Habit of mind. So if we have the habit of mind of not liking having aversion, we have the habit that as soon as something unpleasant arises, we have aversion instead of equanimity. We suffer. And then we do actions often that are acting out that suffering. And we create the cause, and we place another seed on our continuum that's going to ripen a suffering in the future. Well, that's the root. That's what's underneath all of our afflictions.
And what Elaine was saying about feelings, when I think of karma, it's hard to not pass judgment. It's good karma, bad karma. So
That
when
again
we-
is us making up a story. And it's true. Karma's definite. You go out and kill someone cruelly, guess what you're setting up? What's going to happen to you in a future life? What else is going to happen to you? That's not the only thing that's going to happen to you. Someone's going to kill you cruelly in the future. You've created that cause. So yes, you can also go to prison. But some eon from now, you'll have a human rebirth, and maybe you'll even meet this person you cruelly killed, and they'll kill you back because they haven't purified anything. They're still not enlightened, and they're still caught up in their habits. It's outrageous, isn't it, to try to think that it's not just one movie we've created. It's eons of movies, you know?
Some of the organs of actual perceptions, senses, even all this.
No, it's karma that creates those.
Karma is action.
Yes, law of cause and effect creates those. We happen to call that karma in this system. So
It all starts.
just a second, I'm getting a question. Just a second, Tally. Yep.
In the individual, it's the senses and organs of perception, which of course are still part of.
Why do we have all those bodies parts?
Why do we have them?
Yeah, so we have the organs, we have the sense organs. Hmm?
So because- Wow.
Well, we created them
Yeah.
so that we have pleasant, unpleasant. You know, we've created the cause for those, both of those things, right? And neutral. That's the only feelings, according to the Buddha, is there are three: pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Everything else that we call feelings is the I'm suffering. That's a state of mind that goes beyond feeling. It's our response to that feeling of unpleasant, you know? So according to the, you know, the idea that karma or law, cause and effect is how we experience everything. So everything we're experiencing, including the design of this body, is a result. And it's a result of our past actions of body, speech, and mind. Because we are also creating the cause to be mosquitoes. We're creating it. So we have all sorts of different bodies. We'll have different sense organs. We'll see different colors or no color at all.
Rather than analyzing, wouldn't it be just easier to follow the teaching of the Buddha?
This is the teaching of the Buddha.
Analysis.
Analysis.
Not conduct.
No, that's the Theravada path of just eightfold path. In the Mahayana teachings, and even in the sutra teaching, even in the Pali Canon, it talks about analysis. Conduct is how you avoid negative results. It's critical. They must take care of our actions of body and speech. But we also have to understand that our actions of body and speech come from the way we think. And one of the mistakes about how we think, and this is why, you know, this is why they say that just practicing good conduct, but you don't do anything towards emptiness, you'll never get liberated that way. You'll keep having a good rebirth, good experiences, but as long as you don't counter the self-grasping, you cannot be liberated from samsara. And the different schools define self-grasping differently. You know, what is selfless? It's defined differently. And they're all taught by the Buddha. So it's taught according to the dispositions of the minds of the students. Tali, your question.
No, I was just, thank you. I was just thinking about what Elaine said about the purpose of feeling. I think that's a very interesting question. And for me, I think one of the things that has helped me the most about Buddhism is that you can use your feelings. I mean, they're an important part of your training on the Buddhist path, I think, from what I remember about the Mind and Mental Factors course, which I would love to take again, and it's offered. But it's just your feelings will help you develop the self-awareness that is so fundamental, right? To making progress. And so it's helped me really reframe my understanding of my feelings. You know,
that's the good news.
Karma, I don't have so much access to. We don't have any access. I know that it's operating, but I don't really understand it. So I just think in terms of what can I do to further my growth as in Buddhism.
Thanks, Tal. Thank you. That was helpful.
Yeah. So this is the usefulness of being aware of our feelings. This is what I talk about when we're talking about how you know how, if you know, sometimes when you get really good at paying attention, you realize, ooh, something's caught. You'll feel it in your body. And that's the first clue that you're getting impatient, or maybe anger's present, or maybe you're hurt, or whatever, or you're feeling a little greedy. I don't know. But there's something in the body that might be that clue. You might have a physical sensation. There's also a mental sensation going on. But a lot of us will notice it first in our bodies because we're not so good at being aware of what's going on in our mind. But you can either way. But as soon as that unpleasant experience arises, if you look at your habits, what follows unpleasant experience is usually a disturbing state of mind. Aversion arises, impatience arises, we have dislike, but that's, but we go further with it. We want it to stop and we crave having it stop. So that mind, as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, we are no longer reliable. Our mind is no longer a source of wisdom. Wisdom and disturbing emotions do not arise in the same mind. They cannot, they're incompatible. So we don't want to make choices based on our response to unpleasant, or for that matter, our response to pleasant. We want to really notice that this is what's going on in the mind, and then interrupt it and pause and choose how we want to respond. So this is where conduct can really help, and speech, conduct of speech as well, is that's when we can make the choice. Okay, don't like this moment, but I don't have to act from that place. I can investigate further, which might be to turn outward and see what's going on with the other person who you might see as the cause of this unpleasant, like if it's a conversation or something. Does that make sense? So this is how we can, and this is the same thing as like as soon as we have some thought like I'm stupid, you can kind of go, there's a possibility that's self-grasping. So how can I respond to that? How can I investigate that and see how the Buddha says a self-grasping mind is incorrect. So how can I let go of whatever incorrect notion I am and help, with a positive thing? Yeah.
So back to the feelings. So that conceptually all makes sense, but when they're along with I am stupid, say there's a threat of feeling of danger and fear.
Right.
Then
that's why you're not reliable. That's why you want to do nothing. Because you're not reliable. You feel like you're under threat. And if you take time, you might be able to go, I feel like I'm under threat because this person's called me an idiot. Really? You want to see that as a threat? Let's go to a war zone and see if it's really a threat. I will never forget. I have a strong habit of impatience. And so impatience or patience is not retaliating. It's sort of like accepting the suffering that arises in your mind and choosing not to retaliate. Okay. So you're accepting the harm that's being done to you without wishing to retaliate. So impatience is not that. Okay. Impatience saying, I'm going to, fix this, which might mean getting rid of you. So I tend to accept, but anyway. Okay. So I was in a teaching, probably on mind and mental factors. And the teacher just kind of goes, if you really look, how often do you think you've actually been harmed by someone else? So that's, if you have good conditions, how often are you harmed? Huh?
Rare. Handful.
Maybe more. Maybe less. It can actually be zero. you know, that I've never actually practiced patience because no one's trying to harm me. I just thought it was just this like mind-blowing kind of moment where you're kind of going, because this is what we do. Those of us in good conditions, you know, what is harm becomes these, you know, it could be words. You know, didn't all our parents teach us that words can do no harm? You know, even sticks and stones can harm us, but words can never harm you, something like that, you know. But because, we live with pretty good conditions and we self-grasp and we're self-centered. We want things that we like and only things that we like. We see people harming us by what they say to us, you know, and we exaggerate that. I feel threatened. We do. That's what arises, you know. And that's part of that, you know, that because we are vulnerable. It is true that this body can be killed in an instant and everything can kill us. The air can kill us, the food can kill us, the water can kill us. There's literally nothing that we need that can't kill us.
So how do you deal with that from a Buddhist perspective?
You accept reality for what it is. This is called, what is it? I don't know what it's called. The all-pervasive suffering of conditioning. It's a third type of suffering. So we have the suffering of suffering, you know, the usual stuff we think of as suffering. The suffering of change, which is that all good things end quickly. And then the third thing is all-pervasive suffering of conditioning. So what's conditioned? Our aggregates are conditioned. What were they conditioned by? Our past actions. They're the causes, and now we have this condition, you know. And it's the nature of suffering. So our bodies are very vulnerable. You know, all sentient beings, you know, have, not all sentient beings, all sentient beings who are stuck in samsara have vulnerable bodies that can be harmed, can be killed, you know.
And will die.
And will die. Yeah. Number one, birth. Number two, death. So, yeah.
Vanessa had her.
Oh, yes, Vanessa, I'm sorry. You had your hand up.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I think you answered it as I was thinking it. It was related to feelings and neutral states of mind. And I think you answered it early, but thank you.
Okay. So this, you know, it's like what Rome has been saying is sort of like the go-to. So we want to think about these things. We want to think of, bring awareness to our mind. We want to really explore, how do things really exist? We want to read books about how do you do that? How do you think about it? And we want to keep thinking about it. And, and it's very easy. Every time you sit down to meditation, you go, who's sitting here? So, and then you kind of go, I can't point to any me that's sitting here. It's my body that's sitting here, and it's a whole bunch of physical actions that make you in the sitting posture, that kind of thing. And it's your mind that's doing all the thinking. So what is this I? Oh, it's just the label I give to all those actions of body, speech, and mind. But then there are certain things that we can protect our future experiences. And that's by doing things that don't harm. So we protect the lives of others. We protect the belongings of others. We protect the relationships of others. We just go down all the things the ways in which we do harm and not do that. We protect, we don't lie. We don't steal. We don't speak harshly, because we can harm people with our speech as we feel threatened, And then we can even do it with our mind. How do we harm people with our mind? Yeah, we can do it with judgment, and the judgment eventually may lead to an action. we're practicing thoughts like the non-virtues of mind are covetousness, malice, and wrong view, ignorance. Ignorance is the main one because we're just starting off on the wrong foot, you know. So covetousness is that wanting something that belongs to something else, somebody else. And we, you know, and that leads to stealing, sexual misconduct, you know, this is how that evolves, you know, was from the mind of covetousness. And then malice, you know, malice is the mind that sees what we call the sources of harm and wants to kill them. It's the mind that, you know, like we picture in all of our, you know, murder mysteries and Law and Order shows, you know, it's the mind that sits there and, you know, doesn't just want to get rid of you, it wants to get you rid of you in a very bad way, you know. It's just increasing, you know, it starts with hatred. Actually, it starts probably with irritation. And then it becomes impatience, then it becomes anger, then it becomes resentment, then it becomes belligerence, then it becomes wrath, you know.
Does it start with our karma?
Karma, in this case, when you're talking about mind, is just habit of mind. It's the fact that we fed that kind of mind over and over again. So every time we sit there and we feel irritated and we go, I'm justified in feeling irritated because this person did blah, 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 or this went wrong, or da, 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 da. So it's perfectly reasonable that I'm irritated. And then we feed that some more. Oh, we call up our friends. Oh my God, can you believe, you know, so that's feeding it. And then so that makes it more likely that the next time something similar happens, we respond the same way.
I was thinking of karma, past life.
That's still habit. It manifests in the mind by habits of mind. It manifests in conditions.
So do we take malice with us?
Yeah. If we've been practicing malice, you know how you've got kids that wake up, Venerable Robina loves to say she was born angry.
Yeah.
You know, kids have personalities, right?
I have a question. You said something about if samsara is in the body.
Samsara, the body is the nature of suffering. Okay. The body is a result of our past actions. Okay. So like, say we have the habit of killing. Say we're a hunter, you know, or a fisherman, you know, and so we have the habit of killing. And say you know, that what ripens for our next life, you know, is an animal rebirth. And so perhaps we'll be a tiger, you know, because we've had, you know, we have the habit of killing, you know, and so we, you know, it just continues. So we take a form that kills as opposed to a vegetarian animal.
So when you reference samsara,
I'm sorry, that is the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. It's cyclic existence. And it just means this, it's due to ignorance, you know, so it's not, nobody put us in samsara. There's not somebody out there controlling the show. You know? Everybody starts in samsara. I didn't hear you.
I didn't. I thought we start in.
We start with Buddha potential and we develop habits from our ignorance.
That builds samsara.
Well, we've always existed. So that makes it hard to kind of, okay, what did the beginning look like? There's no beginning. So we've practiced all these habits for a very long time. Our consciousness has existed. And unfortunately, because of the way things appear to us, we see, you know, we think, me. What else do we think? What does me mean?
mine.
What's the dichotomy with me?
Other.
You. Yes, other, self, other. And with that, everything falls apart, you know, because we have to take care of me. I can't worry about you. Even though we're completely interdependent on you, you know, we mistake how we exist. And that includes we mistake interdependence. Even though we're all, you know, we can understand cause and effect. We know that, you know, that the mango trees reliant on a seed of a mango tree, which is reliant also on water and, you know, all the other stuff that you have to have. You can tell I'm a gardener. You know, so it's really a big subject. But so like getting back to this idea that you know, it's like being more self-aware and noticing when that strong sense of I arises and going, that's a mistaken state of mind, or perhaps that's a mistaken state of mind. And looking at it, maybe not in that moment, but some other moment, you know, to really kind of go, oh, what does it say about my beliefs when that feeling arises of I? Then when we think about, okay, if I don't want to create the cause for suffering, then I don't want to do harm. So we're self-aware when we realize, oh, I'm about to say some really nasty thing to this person. Ooh, maybe I won't. Because that nasty thing that I want to say to that person is me acting from a place of discomfort. It's not their fault, no matter how many justifications I might think. So we want to notice when we're just rationalizing to ourselves, you know? So this is how we investigate. And so then we can investigate, oh, gee, you know, I feel better when I don't attack others, even though I felt uncomfortable. So maybe there's something to this, that anger creates more suffering. You know, so we, you know, we have to keep paying attention.
Okay, that's a good use of self-grasping, is even if you are in a state of wanting to try and understand all of this, that if even for my own self-grasping benefit to not create, you know, more negative stuff for myself.
So, you know, His Holiness, you know, what is selfish enlightenment, you know. So it's that thing that it is in our own best interest. If that's where we, you know, we have to start where we are. So if we're all involved in our self-interest, if in your own self-interest, you want to treat others well. So anyway, its time is up. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So now we rejoice that we were all participating. We're kind of trying to figure it out. You don't have to agree, but we're trying to understand what the Buddha said, not, you know, we don't have to necessarily agree. We have a lot of investigation to do. So that's cool. So we want to dedicate our merits to the benefit of others, because according to the teachings, we have to investigate this too. That's where happiness actually lies, is in cherishing others. So.
Also in our dedications today, this nice lady who left a little bit early, she said as she was leaving that she had to go because her mother is dying. And her mother's name is Barbara. So if we can add her in our dedications, and also our extremely long time member and supporter of the center, Peggy, her husband, Harold Katz, is in the hospital at the moment. So we can dedicate to him and to her family as well.
Yeah, because our prayers we have karmic connections to people that we know, that we work with, that we have contact with. And so our prayers are stronger for people that we have these karmic connections with. So that's one of the reasons why we identify specific people. So in our own minds to think of those, to, you know, that they get better, that, you know, and if that their mind is at ease, even if the body's suffering. So, did I put that up there? May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then His Holiness's long life, 244. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Tenzin Gyatso is His Holiness's Dharma name. And then on page, somebody tell me what page?
I think it's 234.
234 for the prayer to Rinpoche's swift return. Speaking of which, this Saturday from 9:30 till 12, you're welcome to come. We're going to say prayers. This is the anniversary of Lama Zopa Rinpoche's death, or showing the aspect of passing away. So it's said that it's really good to do prayers on the anniversary. And what we're trying to do is pray for an accurate recognition of his reincarnation.
No, it was 1 year ago.
That's what, didn't I say that? Or whatever I said, it was 1 year ago. It's an anniversary.
I just heard it.
Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shrapakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Lozan father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that's never discouraged. Incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request, while striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. So we have two more, I'll be here for 2 more Sundays, next Sunday and the following Sunday. And then Venerable Amy will be here. And then I don't know what's happening in May. I'll be gone for the summer, but we have a visiting teacher, Venerable Keldon, will be here from June, July, and August. So you'll be in good hands. Is that all I need to say?
I think so. And we will, Tali, I'll ask Venerable Keldon to do another mind and mental factors course for us.
That would be great.
And
Thank you so
Tendron's
much.
also finished. Sure. Venerable Tendron's finishing up. She's currently doing a class on karma on Thursdays. So
Karma and afflictions, yeah.
So
You want to stay in samsara, come hear me. No, I'm kidding.
but well, it seems like, there's a definite interest. So we'll continue with those things with Venerable Keldon over the summer, and
That's all we know.
yeah, that's all we know.
Okay, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable.
You're venerable
Bye,
tender.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Tanya. It was
You're-
wonderful, thanks.